Meeting to order. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 Middletown Schools Building Committee meeting. We'll take a roll call. Edward Brady.
Zoom.
Not in person, but on Zoom. Rosemary Krager.
Here.
Tammy Holden.
Here.
Poe George.
Here.
Thomas Welch.
Here.
Jeffrey Heath. But Billy Niedermeyer, you're here in his place today, correct? All right. Michelle Fonseca. Sean Brown. Charlie Roberts, present. William Nash.
Present.
Vincent Lemanchik.
Here.
Doug Arnold is not here, but we're going to talk about that. He's no longer on the school committee. David Anise. Don Moran.
Here.
You are going to be the alternate for Ed Brady tonight. Mark Thayer. Christopher Logan. Leanna Fiera Fenton. We're going to talk about that replacement as well, as long as William O'Connell and Mark Tangway.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum. All right, let's see, approval of meeting minutes from February 1st, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I pass. Status of ongoing facility condition index, evaluation of the high school and Gaudet Middle School.
The visit was done about 10 business days ago. I'm still waiting on the report. We're on about the 10th business day. I have reached out to the firm that did the report. I have not heard back yet.
Okay.
It should hopefully be by week's end.
Are they given a reason?
I haven't got any response back yet.
Did you ask for a reason? No, I'm serious.
They-
I'm dead serious. You have to, they're working
I
for
said
you.
yeah, I did say it's the 10th day and
Right, but
they haven't
they're
yet.
working for you. You're paying them to do it. They should give it to us.
Who is the company again?
Bureau Veritas.
Okay.
Out of Maryland.
Big company. Big company. That's it.
Can you just let us know if you hear back from them or push them again
I'll
on
call
that?
them again tomorrow.
Okay. Update on town council resolution enabling legislation for the bond. Oh, okay. Mark, do you want to cover that?
So it was passed by the town council and it is at the state for them to approve. And then it will come back to the town council for final approval before going on the ballot.
Okay. Is there anything you need from us?
Not
We're
at
all-
this point. no.
Okay. So it was very nice to see the town council vote in favor 6-0. I appreciate their support on this, so.
Any speculation on when that might be heard? Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to go to the council, the first meeting in March, so it has to be back soon.
Weeks. Thanks.
Anything else on that? Presentation by HMFH on the design concept of is this Saugus, Massachusetts, and Winthrop Middle School, High School.
Great, so we're gonna share our screen. If this works.
Can you guys just introduce yourself again? We know who you are, but.
Sure, absolutely. I'm Tina Stanislawski. I'm the principal in charge for HMFH.
And Matt LaRue, Senior Associate with HMFH.
Thank you.
And so this presentation, it's a little bit of both sort of introducing you to a middle high school concept and how the two schools can be kind of kept substantially separate. And also just to give you some examples of new schools. When we met with the principals this week, when we toured the existing schools, they were sort of asking us for some examples of, new science labs, new auditoriums, like what do new schools look like right now? So this presentation is part of that too. If I can get it to work.
go to window, go
Sorry.
to presentation.
Nope.
There you go.
Okay, so the first school that you're gonna see is the Winthrop Middle High School. It's a little bit smaller than the school that you're proposing. It has 970 students in grades 6 through 12, 460 in middle school and 510 in high school. It's about 180,000 square feet. Some of the themes that you'll see is that it's 2 separate schools. The middle school teams are on floors 2 and 3. The middle school teams really focus on STEAM, and their project areas are focused on the STEAM programs. The departmental high school is on 3 floors, so that's not set up in teams. That's set up like a pretty standard high school. They have a huge focus on visual and performing arts, and they were really excited to celebrate academic achievement, not just, achievement in the athletics. And the Viking is their mascot, so they also are celebrating, Viking pride. This is the exterior of the school. This is the site, and it's a very compact site. Can you guys see my cursor?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this footprint right here is where the existing high school stood, and they had to tear down that school and they built this new middle high school. So we basically built lot line to fit both of those schools in this spot. The reason they did this is because there's floodplain issues in Winthrop. It's right on the ocean, and this is the only buildable spot they had in town to do this. So it results in a very efficient floor plan of the building. So there's 2 separate schools here. They have separate admin in this school. The green is the admin. They have 2 separate entrances for the kids. So the middle school entrance is here. The high school entrance comes in here. Their admin areas are right next to those. They have 2 separate cafeterias. So you come in and you're right in the high school cafeteria. Same thing for the middle school cafeteria here. They share a kitchen that serves both of these cafeteria. They share an auditorium. Viking Longship is their fabrication lab, which they share. They share a performing arts space. The gym is in the center of the school. They share that space. And they have an alt PE space here, which is a fitness studio that they also share. So everything in blue is the high school. And what you're not seeing here, because this is a diagram, there's doors, that close off these wings. So they can really keep the school open to the public and have them access the auditorium and the gym off this lobby. And they can close off, doors over here and keep the high school kids out of the zone with the middle school kids. The middle school locker rooms are down here as well, and the high school locker rooms. And like you saw on the site plan, the fields are out here. Let's see, we go to the next slide. And feel free to stop me as I'm talking if you have any questions. This is the upper floor kind of layout of the school. Again, the blue is all of the high school. And I was telling you that it's departmental. So they took their high school science labs and they stacked them on all 3 floors. So that in the future, they could go to a different type of model if they didn't want to continue with the departmental model. That gave them the flexibility to do that. And the middle school is set up on floors 2 and 3. On floor 2, all the 7th grade classrooms in 2 teams are here. They have a STEAM room here and a project area outside of it. And then the 6th grade is stacked on the 2 floors. So they have 1 team on floor 2 and 1 team on floor 3. And they're connected sort of with project areas that are open to above so they can see each other. Again, they share the media center. They can look down into the gymnasium. They share a black box theater, and there's access to the auditorium here on this upper level. So now you're going to see some photos of what these things look like. You can see here that there's 2 very separate entrances. They have their own identity. The middle school kids come in here. High school kids come in here. They don't really see each other at all. They have 2 separate cafeterias. This is the high school kids cafeteria. This is the middle school kids. You can see there's like a little grouping of kids up here. They have differentiated dining in the high school side. The kids can kind of choose where they want to sit. There's also a lot of branding that goes on in this school. The Viking, I told you, is their mascot. This is a ship that the students built, actually, and these are the blueprints that they worked off of. So you'll see there's a lot of celebration of student work and, pride in the Winthrop culture.
Tina, can I just jump in? These slides are showing you schools that we've done that we can't promise you that we could do any one feature that you might be seeing, whether it's, open to above spaces like this, which, Rhode Island has a different code, or whether the budgets of these projects are, going to be a comparable budget to this project. So I just want to make sure that you don't think that we're promising you that we can give you what you're seeing on the screen, not necessarily.
Right, I mean, NFPA is a very different code, so they have some restrictions on what you can have as connected floors in buildings without having a smoke evac. Smoke evac is something that's a little bit expensive to put in a project. We'd want to stay away from it, but we definitely will jump into code analysis shortly with this project. Again, this is another differentiated dining space. This is sort of underneath the auditorium, if you can imagine that. So it carves out this nice little space if you don't want to sit in the big open space. Also in the distance over here, you can see outdoor dining. The kids can go out and be underneath the auditorium still and have a covered area to eat, and they can come out on this patio out here. So connections to, the natural environment and places where the kids can get outside is really important. This is their shared auditorium. Again, they have a huge theater program in the school. They have kids on Broadway, so it's really robust. But this seats about 570 students. They have shared band and chorus spaces. Again, you'll see a lot of natural light coming into these spaces. They have a black box theater, which they use for their drama program. This may be something that you're interested in, but it may not be, depending on your drama programs. This is their shared media center, and you can see, again, different areas for kids to sit. Some kids like to lounge up here on this sort of stadium seating with their laptops, their soft seating, but there's also areas for like a whole class of kids to come in, and there's smart boards and whiteboards, so you could teach a class in here. This is their gym that's shared. You can see again the branding, that's really important. They have sort of a wave theme that goes around the school because it is right on the ocean. One thing that they did say in this new school, because you can see into the gym from all these different vantage points around the school, kids feel really safe going to this. Their old building had this like gymnasium that was down a long corridor, and it was very dark, and kids said they were scared to be down there. And in this school, everybody feels really safe. This is their alt PE space. You can see, again, we're connecting to the outdoors. We put in a big sort of garage door that takes you to an outdoor area. It's fenced here too, which is another thing that we'll talk about is security, so that, the kids have access to the outdoors, but they're also still in a safe, secure environment. This is their shared fabrication lab, and it's kind of a combination of everything. They have woodworking, they have sewing machines, they have all kinds of interesting maker type equipment in the space. And they have this big outdoor work yard that again is fenced so the kids can be outside. They build those big Viking longships. You saw one of them hanging in the calf, but it's a really fun program for them. This is an example of the 6th grade project area. I was telling you that the 6th grade has one team on the second, or one team on the 3rd floor and one on the 2nd. And they're grouped around this project area, so they still feel connected to each other. This is a big mural that is outside the science labs in the high school. Again, it's celebrating science and, thinking about academics as something that you could get excited about. And graphics in our schools are really an important way to get the kids excited about things, and it's not an expensive way to really add to the culture of the school. This is one of the 7th and 8th grade project areas. It's outside of their STEAM room on the 2nd floor and art room on the 3rd floor. So it's a place for kids to come out, and they're making bridges in this photo, really expand beyond the classroom. And they leave their projects kind of set out up here so everybody can kind of see what everybody's working on, which is really fun. And this is an example of the high school art room. So this is actually 2 rooms and it's got this sort of movable partition so they can open it up and the 2 teachers can co-teach depending on, what's going on in both of those classrooms. But again, lots of natural light in these spaces. Does anyone have any questions about Winthrop?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said the auditorium, did it have its own separate entrance?
From the exterior, you mean?
Yes, like I think at one point in your presentation, you're saying that you can cut off certain areas of the school.
Yep,
and
yep.
that the auditorium could be kind of separated from the school as more of in some cases, a community, facility.
Yeah. In this school, we are doing like a dual purpose with the cafeteria, the high school cafeteria, that gets used as like a lobby space. So there's doors that cordon off, all of the academic portions of the building. The high school cafeteria is open and public come in that way. So it's kind of, trying to multi-purpose use spaces. So you get more bang for your buck instead of building like a separate lobby. But it's definitely something that can be zoned and secured.
Gotcha. And my other question is just in Massachusetts, like something similar to CTE programs that we have. Does this school have that? Like, do they offer?
Yep.
That form of
They-
education?
They did. They have a small childcare program. I didn't include a photo of it, but it's on the ground floor of the high school wing, and it's got a little playground space outside. So that's their Chapter 75 program in the school.
So that's where students learn how to do early childhood
Early ed,
care.
yep.
Gotcha. But those like the pictures of the shops and things, are they just shop classes or are they actually programs of study?
They are just shop classes. So that was their Viking Longship program. It's kind of like a maker kind of program that they have. It's sort of a hands-on. They learn about the history of the Vikings and they can create projects, any kind of project they want to take on, but it's not a career tech space.
Bill, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, there's a lot of
Sherry.
very high ceiling heights, and all I can think of is trying to heat all that space.
Yeah, I mean, the school uses a system that's displacement ventilation. So the conditioned air comes in low where the people are in the space, and the body heat created by the people kind of makes that air rise up, and it takes all the contaminants, with it and gets exhausted through the ceiling. So really you're just paying to, condition the air that's down at the level of the people. And we do that in gym spaces, we've done it in auditorium spaces. It's really efficient, and it's a good system because it doesn't have a lot of moving parts. So maintenance is lower in a lot of those cases.
Charlie. Question for you on the school. When was it built and what was your final cost on it, including soft cost?
That's a great question. It opened probably 7 years ago is my guess. And it was 120 million. I can get those stats for you though.
All right. And you said you didn't have to put a smoke evac system in?
No, the way, Massachusetts code is, it's not NFPA. So they allow you to have those kind of spaces as long as they don't connect more than 3 levels. So a lot of times what happens is we have floors 1 and 2 open to each other, and then the 3rd floor has glass to close it off. And sometimes that's fiberglass, sometimes it's glass with sprinkler heads on it. So there's kind of workarounds. Now that probably will not be the same case in Rhode Island, but it's something that we're going to look into pretty quickly with the code consultant. Because a lot of times we do these buildings that are very, they have a big floor plate, and to get the natural light down to them, we use a lot of light wells. So that will be key in, designing a very compact footprint for you all.
I see when you're building that, a lot of round and whatever, in the one picture that you had, that's all dollars, and I look at it's a lot of, I call it glitz. And it's pretty to look at, but when you go to open up your wallet, it's very expensive. And the open spaces, they're pretty too, but that costs dollars, you know. And I'm just, but that's a comment. I don't need a comment back.
Sure. Not a comment back to you, but Winthrop was one of the least expensive schools that the MSBA built that year and opened. So I think a lot of our schools look like they cost a lot of money, but things that we're doing and using like inexpensive materials makes them very affordable. So people walk in and they say, wow, this must have cost a lot, but actually our schools don't.
The exterior was very, you know, you look at it, very nice, and it was very inexpensive. I like the exterior.
Yeah, thank you. That we use a lot of brick and CMU in our buildings. They're very durable, inexpensive, easy to maintain.
With access to outside on the first level, can you talk a little bit about the security, you know, with that big garage door kind of open? I know
Yes.
you said there's like fencing, but just addressing a little bit of security on that first level.
Yep, they actually had somebody on the building committee that was on the Secret Service. So I swear that school might be one of the safer ones around. But the perimeter of the site is fenced. And you saw like the high school dining area open to the outside. That plaza is all completely fenced. You can't get there from the sidewalk. It's like a 6-foot high fence, but it still feels very open. And you saw also the all PE connects to an outdoor space that has a fence on it. The pre-K room is adjacent to that. That also has a little playground that's completely fenced. So it's all kind of tight to the building. There's no way for people to access that from the outside. Same thing for that building yard. And, you know, I'm happy to bring you some of our career tech schools that we have done that have actual work yards and talk to you more about the programs that we have built for those folks, because it might be something, you know, you want to explore adding an additional career tech program to this middle high school. So we can do that at one of our future presentations, because we have a lot of good examples of those too.
Yeah.
You want me to share Saugus with you all now?
I think we have one more question.
Yep.
I have a question. So along the lines of what Tom asked relative to the ceiling heights, and I know the building was built 7 years ago, as you said, kind of in line with the idea that we are probably looking at hoping to get energy credits
Yes.
towards reimbursement. What is a building like that going to look like? Is it going to look much different than what an energy efficient building? Well,
No, actually this one was super energy efficient. It actually is LEED Gold too. All of our schools are, you know, we really pride ourselves on having net zero ready schools. In a lot of cases, we try to target our EUIs as low as we can. Our middle high schools are, you know, maybe in that one maybe it was in the 40 EUI. Our elementary schools have lower EUI. The only thing that really drives that up is the more career tech programs you put in, depending on what they are. Like some of the larger shop spaces that have, you know, like HVAC or plumbing, those kind of programs really are energy heavy. But, you know, the programs that you're talking about aren't necessarily.
One of the
Still-
things that, one of the features of this building that does make it energy efficient is its compact volume. The most energy efficient volume of a building is a perfect cube. And the more you get away from that with wings that spread out or sprawling buildings, those are the ones that have more envelope and therefore cost more to heat and cool throughout the year. So that's one of the nice things about the Winthrop model.
Yeah, that's a great point.
so we're probably looking along those lines, obviously, but Sean, I know that any input on number one, I guess, Mark gave us a status of where we are with the legislature, but if we are inclined to get them to upgrade and give some energy credits up to 65%, what kind of standards might we have to get to that 65%? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I
No.
think we'd have to talk to Mario about that, how that would work.
Obviously, some close to net zero, I would imagine, to get to 65. I bet we're probably closer. Just something to keep in mind in the end of the design, but
yeah, I think our school buildings are getting better every year as we design them, and the EUI, the measurement that we use to measure the intensity of
Right.
energy, is consistently going down. And a lot of our schools are now into the low 30s, upper 20s, which is about where you want to be if you were to add a full rooftop of photovoltaics that would potentially get you to the net zero.
Right.
Charlie, your ears just perked up, didn't
I
you?
have to recruit myself, whatever that term is. I forget.
Thank you for that answer, guys. Thank you. I'm good.
But I was just
Sorry,
looking
yeah.
at our what we spent on natural gas actually this year. It was a big number. So to heat those buildings, and I think part of that is just how spread out they are, right? I mean, but I think what are we spending again, Rosemary? You just sent this around. It was a big chunk. That's all I know. So, all right.
My only warning for you on that is that a lot of old buildings don't really have the ventilation requirements that code requires. And so oftentimes when we build a new building and open it with the correct ventilation to meet code, it's not necessarily less expensive to run than your old buildings. Just throwing that out there. But if you can do an all electric building and then you can get a grant or something to put the solar panels on, then, that's a huge help.
Not getting a grant, Charlie, but getting the bubble, right?
Yeah.
From your company.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the Saugus Middle High School. That's 1,360 students in grades 6 through 12, 660 in middle school and 700 in high school. It's roughly 270,000 square feet. It's a little bit bigger than what you're planning for. Some of the themes that were important, again, it's 2 schools. Small learning communities were really important to this town. They had a STEAM curriculum focus for the high school and the middle school. Social emotional well-being was really important, which ties into the small learning communities. They really wanted to have small groups of students that were well known by their teachers and their peers. They're another visual and performing arts kind of community. They have a big arts program. And they also really wanted the school to celebrate Saugus and be uniquely Saugus. So we have a lot of graphics around historic industry in the town.
Question, guys. It's a Saugus Middle School, but it's a middle high school. Is it just a different name?
It's a middle high school, yes.
But it's called the Saugus Middle School?
No, it's the Saugus Middle High School.
Middle high. I think it's
That's what the slide said. It was
Yeah,
a
it is.
mistake. Yeah.
Misprint on the
They're
slide.
splitting the presentation between the middle school and high school. 2 schools on 1 campus.
Did you go to presentation?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, okay, so here, again, you can see this is a really compact footprint. If you know Saugus at all, Route 1 is kind of going up here behind the school. You can see like the mall over here. It's a very tight site. Again, here's the footprint. Let's see if I can minimize this. Sorry. It's divided into a high school that's 4 stories on one side, all of the share program in the middle, similar to Winthrop. And then the middle school is actually broken down into 2 pods. So again, they were really trying to make those small learning communities as small as possible. So there are 2 separate schools. The one thing that's really different about Saugus compared to Winthrop is that they had one administration. So they decided that they wanted the middle school principal and high school principal to be together in one block. They really wanted them to, collaborate with each other and make this kind of, one campus. So the main entrance to the building, if you're a visitor coming in, is here by that main administration. And then there's 2 separate entrances for middle school here, and then high school directly into their pod here. So again, it's similar. The high school cafeteria acts as kind of a lobby space for the auditorium, which is on 2 levels. both cafeterias do. And there's ways to lock down the pods. There's doors here and here, that kind of cordon off these pods so that public, if they're in the building, can't get into those academic wings. They can come in here and walk into the auditorium. They can come in through the main entrance and go to the auditorium. And again, these pods are laid out with all of the academic classes around the perimeter, a project area in the middle, and then a STEAM space in the center that kind of connects all of them together. And the middle school does the same thing. So 2 teams per pod per grade here on the middle school. So they have separate cafeterias. They have a shared kitchen here. They have separate locker rooms, which are here for the high school and here for the middle school. Their gym is actually on the 2nd floor. This helps make their footprint even tighter. So the gym sits on top of the kitchen and the locker rooms and the loading area. Excuse me. And that, like I said, helps make a compact footprint. The upper level of the auditorium is here. They share performing arts, the Black Box Studio, and then they share 2 alt PE spaces, one that's kind of a half basketball court and one that's a fitness studio. And then they share the media center, which is here. So this is the main entrance to the school, and you can see there's a lot of branding going on. The Saugus letters here that the kids sit on. It's very popular for graduation pictures and selfies. Here's the high school entrance, and their cafeteria opens onto this plaza for outdoor dining. Saugus was a little less worried about public being on their campus, so this isn't fenced off for the high school kids. They can come out here and eat, and they can go out to their cars and leave. They have more of an open campus. This is the middle school entrance. They have a sort of bus shelter here. And again, these are some of the graphics that we created. This is sort of Route 1 and all the different signs that you see on Route 1. And the middle school kids can see this as they come in and out of their entrance. They have shared outdoor classroom space. This is a nice amphitheater here that faces south that they both share. You can see it. You can have a teacher here teaching to this group. There's power. There's Wi-Fi that they can get out here. This is the admin down here that can see kind of everything on the site, so for security. And this is their media center that sits up on top of that. They also have shared classroom space on the roof. They have a green roof here with sedum, and this can connect to their main street, so both middle and high school kids can use this space. This is the high school cafeteria. So again, you can see the doors open up to that outdoor plaza I was talking about. They have all these little nooks that they can sit in. There's nooks underneath the stair, so they're not always out in the open space. And they can also use this sort of forum seating for dining, and they can use this for lectures. So this is like a multi-purpose space that they can use all day long. This is the middle school caf here. There's some inspirational quotes that they can read. They have some banquettes over here on this side, which is different, than sitting at the big round tables. And then they also have a small platform area that they can sit and have lunch at. They have some high tops here that go down in this direction too. So again, different options for different seating. This is their media center that they share. Again, sort of that platform seating again, different areas for kids to sit. This is a movable wall here too that opens up into this bigger lobby space. And when they have like art fairs or different things happening in the school, they can open up the media center to this space for more spill out space. This is their gym, and the state gym is their mascot, and red is their color if you hadn't noticed that already. Everything's red. This is the high school pod. This is their project area at the ground floor. They have their pods arranged by grade level. So 12th grade's on the ground floor, 11th next, 9th is on the 3rd floor here. And that's because in the middle school, the 8th grade is on the 3rd floor. So there's a bridge that connects those 2 pods together. They're the most connected in the building to sort of, allow the kids to go back and forth and take some high school classes. and really get that feeling of being in high school. Again, they have some graphics on this wall. They have the ironworks in Saugus that's historic. So there's a lot of interesting diagrams about how that works. So this is the high school pod. This is kind of, this stacks on every floor. Again, I was telling you the general classrooms around the perimeter. They have 2 science labs here. And then they have the big project area and their STEAM spaces. So they have a CAD lab with a makerspace next to it. They have a TV studio. They have their art rooms in this zone. There's also the teacher planning on every floor. So these teachers don't necessarily keep all their classrooms. They have a space where they can go hang up their coat. They can use a copier. There's, conference room table, places where they can, talk about curriculum together. This diagram showing the art rooms that spill out onto this project space. This is one of their science labs. You can see there's power in the ceiling so that they can, move these tables around as they need to and still be able to access power. What we've done in all of our Massachusetts schools, it's kind of regulated by the state, but these tables pull up against the countertops on the perimeter when it's in lab mode. And then when it's in lecture mode, they can move the tables around, as needed. So you can see there's casters on some of the ends of these, so you can move them. So it's flexible. This also has a large door that connects out to the project area. And you can see this kind of connection here. This is the art room back here. So again, you can really see that STEAM kind of curriculum happening here. When these are closed, there's automatically a shade that can come down and block this. So if there's any sort of security issues in the school, the shades come down. This is their TV studio. They also have a fabrication lab that's shared. It has space in it so that they can make stage sets too. It's on the first floor next to the auditorium. This is sort of a breakout of one of the middle school pods. It has, the STEAM space in the center, project area, and then the general classrooms around the perimeter. One of the nice things about the school that we upgraded from Winthrop is having these project areas on the perimeter. Having the glass here spill in from the end is a really nice way to light this zone. And so we'll be able to do that in your team breakout areas too. And these are some of the project areas. Saugus also had a historic industry about ice. So this is the ice pod. And you'll notice the high school was green, the middle school is blue. And that's another, way to have wayfinding in a school that has 2 different separate areas. The high school kids know that if they're in an area with blue, they're in the middle school and they shouldn't be there, and vice versa. Again, some more shots of those project areas. These are all the general classrooms connected to the project areas. And this is the one at the end of the corridor there.
Are those lockers that we saw in that picture?
Yep. So they have,
Kind of how you're doing lockers with the newer buildings?
right, so we have sort of wider lockers that are half height so that it fits the giant backpacks better. The skinny tall lockers don't really work
No,
very
because
well.
as we did the tours, the lockers aren't being used.
Yeah.
Right, I know. Every district that we work with, we talk about, getting rid of lockers if they're not using them, but people seem to be connected to them. But if Middletown wants to break away from them, that would be great.
The feedback I get from my 13-year-old is they don't have time usually.
Yeah, I know.
Time and they're narrow and they carry everything and.
Mhm.
And they don't wear coats either.
Yeah.
Right,
You don't
they don't
need
wear
them.
coats.
Good to have some, but
Some
you don't
sort
need
of
one for every
something.
student like we've had in the past.
Right.
But some of these concepts that
Hmm.
are being shown at both these districts, when we did our tour with Manuel and the team last week, it's all here. I'm looking
Yeah.
at Billy because he was part of the team, things that we talked about.
Yeah.
The 8th to the 9th grade bridge, those
Yep.
learning pods.
Flexible
So it's nice
furniture.
to see this in reality. 'Cause everything you've shown is what we have brought up.
That's great. Yeah, the furniture too in these schools, we've been sort of using the same furniture for both sides so that they can move it around as needed. Sometimes they'll have more kids in the middle school for 1 year, so that's pretty flexible too. They can kind of share. And then again, like all of the project areas have these, flat screen, touchscreen TVs on the walls. Those are becoming less and less expensive every year, and they work just like your smartphone. So it's really easy for teachers and kids to use them. It's just, kind of what they do every day. And then this is just to show you, we heard, one of the principals talking about how it would be great to brand the schools and really get excitement about, Middletown and academics and athletics. And, they were really into their Sachem mascot. And, we brought this kind of the actual Sachem of Saugus and kind of get a little biography on him so they could see who the actual Sachem was. And this is like a historic map of Saugus when it was founded in their light well here. I think that's it. I think that's it for our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The same thing on, as we asked on the other school, when was that one finished and what was your cost?
It was 230 million and it opened during the pandemic. So it's been open for 3 years now, I think.
Okay.
Does it have a nursing office?
Did you hear that question? There was
No, I didn't,
someone
sorry.
asked, does it have a nursing,
Oh,
does it have a nursing office?
The health office for the kids. Both of those schools have 2 separate nurses. So that's another thing that is separated in these buildings. The high school has its own area and the middle school has its own area. Sometimes we'll put them back to back so that the kids don't see each other, but the nurses actually can communicate with each other and back up the other one if, there's something going on. The nurse also, we try to get them as close to an exit, preferably not the main entrance, so that they can, have kids come in and out that are sick, especially now with COVID and all of those sort of protocols. So
We didn't mention bathrooms in either of these. Are the bathrooms gang style bathrooms? Or are they individuals?
there's a combination of both. So there's a gang toilet, and right at the entrance to that gang toilet, there's also 2 unisex toilets. So that's something that's, very district specific that we'll have to talk through with you, because I know there's issues around having sort of a single room where someone can go and lock themselves in it. So that's a conversation that we'll have to work through with you all. One of the things we're doing too in our gang toilet rooms is putting in full height partitions for stalls. So at least, kids can feel like they have some privacy, in those kind of gang toilet rooms. Locker rooms are the same.
Can you provide these slides to us?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm happy to bring you some of our vocational schools too, so we could kind of talk through some of the programs that we're seeing and what those spaces look like.
Charlie, yeah, question. Thank you for that, folks. And I know timing is crazy right now, but I'd love to get a chance to visit these places. I know we've been talking about site visits.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we need to find a way to squeeze some opportunity in for that.
I agree.
Yeah, we'd be happy to take you, and you can talk to the other school that you've been talking about,
Weymouth.
Westport.
Westport, yes, thanks. So we've been in touch with the principal from the Westport, Massachusetts Middle High School. It's not our project, it's a recently completed project, and there was a teacher who's a resident in Middletown who talked about it. And she is happy to give a tour, and just asked for us to give her a couple of time options, and she would try to fit us in.
We talked about the kind of the arrangement we thought we might be looking at. What were the schools we were originally talking about? That Westport sounds fine, and there's a connection there, but what were the other ones we would?
Well,
discuss?
Westport, we were gonna go to see what not to do. in some
In some
cases,
ways.
Right,
correct?
right, I understand that, but again, I think we talked about examples of schools that we thought we might be closer to, as far as design.
Well, the-
Saugus, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
The Saugus and Winthrop are fairly close to each other, just north of Boston. And so those kind of make sense to do together. And they do provide slightly different versions of a similar model. We just finished a new middle school in Weymouth, Massachusetts, which has interesting because it's got they're not career tech spaces, but they're pathways to career tech, which is a real feature of that school. And I think what's makes it exciting. So that's one that we could see together. Some of the other ones that we had mentioned before are elementary schools, which were pertinent when we were thinking about the two school project. But these ones are, I think, the ones that we would look at the most.
I'd love to see the options that would be more for career tech as well.
Yeah.
So like all three, me personally, that's just me. I can skip Westport. I'd rather see the other schools myself.
Agreed.
We do have an interesting school in Dayton, Massachusetts. This is Bristol County Agricultural School, has lots of career tech, but it's very specialized geared towards that agri kind of educational model.
Which is something we've heard you talk about, right? Potentially.
Mhm.
They have some interesting like ag mech program, and they have aquaculture, and of course they have a huge dairy barn, which is pretty cool, but that would be a fun tour as well.
I think just Matt, just put out some dates for us. Rather
Okay.
than, do a survey or whatever, who's available. If you
Yeah.
could just arrange 2 or 3 dates and
Yeah,
whoever can make it, can make it.
correct.
Rather than trying to do a doodle.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great, Rosemary. I'll do that.
I guess just check though on, we might get some interest, obviously, from town council, the rest of the school committee. I don't know how many we can take on these tours. But I would try to flush that out as well.
Yeah, I told the Westport principal that we might have 20 or more people, and she didn't bat an eye, so.
I mean, I do think that Westport might be interesting to see for the special education, what she was pointing out was pretty interesting. And it's something that I think we probably need to be talking about more too, as we meet with Manuel and the working group. But really getting that special ed correct in school is important, and it's very different district to district, so.
Is there any way we could, I'm looking at, these are beautiful schools. You guys did a great job. But I'm looking at the price. It's, both of these are well out of our range. We're looking at $700 a square foot, and these are well over that. Is there anything in our price range that you could show us? Because I hate like all the people to go out, they take a look at it and they think they're buying it, they're getting these schools, and I'm looking at Cadillacs, and then we're gonna get a Ford, and they're gonna feel disappointed.
So,
later on.
yeah, so Winthrop construction cost was I think it was $340 a square foot, just construction cost. That's not all in project cost. And then Saugus, I'm trying to remember, I think it was just shy of 400. So they're not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. And we can certainly show you, we have some elementary schools that were really built for a small amount of money. We could look at Carver.
Yeah, and the Carver Elementary School was kind of singled out for being one of the more cost-effective schools in the state. There's a project we're working on now, which is a Votech High School, which is very cost-effective. There's another one in Dover, New Hampshire, so that's a bit far for you to go, but that one is also.
But we could show you the photos from that. I mean, Dover's a good example of some of the career tech spaces that you might be interested in.
Photos would be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we could do a presentation, I think, just on career path and career tech
mhm.
schools, and we'll try to provide a range of the, you know, the ones that display really cost-effective solutions.
And also Pell Elementary School,
Yeah,
which is close to you all.
Pell was very cost-effective.
Where's
That opened in 2013.
And-
Yeah, and one of the things, you know, I keep thinking about here is with our educational planner, I mean, I'm sure you guys, I know you guys are already talking to him. I hope you continue to talk to our high school principal and our middle school principal too about the kind of programs, because I did talk to our high school principal recently and just some of the stuff coming out of his mind about what we could do here and the programs we could offer, I think will definitely drive our design. So I assume you guys are already in communications about that, but
Yes,
definitely some
Last week,
opportunities.
we walked the
Yeah.
buildings with
Okay.
Principals with them, with everybody.
Did he flush out all his ideas to you?
Oh, yeah.
Lot of
Yeah, he
ideas.
gave a lot of information.
Absolutely.
Good.
And we're.
He's
we're
got some
planning-
interesting things that, you know, like we talk, I'll give one example of like auto. We can't do that, right? Because Newport's doing it, but there's also electric vehicles now. So that's a different kind of concept we could look at as well. So,
Listed about
yeah,
7 different, possibilities.
great. Any other questions?
When we talk, when we're talking CTE and generally, how many programs are we looking at? I mean, you rattled off 7.
We currently have the
We
3.
have 3, but obviously we can't do 7.
No,
So,
he was mentioning just different
so
areas.
how many
to
are
look
we
at.
probably looking at for our numbers?
Yeah,
4, 6? I mean,
adding them are slow, I think. They're slower
There-
than
there's a
people think.
process.
There's
You
a
have
whole
to,
process you have to go
um,
through.
Yeah, we have to apply to the Department of Education and get approved and
okay, so
so forth.
so
So
3 we
I'm
have
thinking-
now, we're gonna stay
I'm
with those
thinking
3.
4 probably, would saturate.
Okay, so the 3 we have plus 1 additional, so we can't get too crazy with, good to have a lot of options to pick from, but
Mhm.
it all has to fit into our big plan, but that's good to know. I don't want to think 7, but I
Right.
think 4 is realistic.
Or other possibilities with internships and apprenticeships.
Okay, sure,
That
yeah.
aren't necessarily built within,
Agree.
kind of a combination.
Yeah, that's good.
And income potential too. And it's got the possibility for income potential. So.
Which all,
Well, it's
to
enough.
be clear, we're really only looking at 1 additional, roughly, maybe 2, but as Tammy said, maybe some peripheral
Right.
intern / apprenticeship type opportunities, but that's something that we want to be focused on too.
And we need to get that from our educational planners
Mhm.
working with
Correct.
administration and.
Them, exactly.
I only say it because I know Paul talked a lot about
Mhm.
CTE and Dennis about how opportunities, but we're a little bit limited.
Yes.
I'm not saying those programs aren't viable and they can't be used for those purposes, but we want to keep those expectations managed
Mhm.
with the council.
And there's I forget the name of the committee, Sean, but the advisory committee, or I don't know what it's called, that is talked to some of the local businesses too, that there's a shortage of workers.
MEDAC, the Economic Advisory Committee. Yep.
Yeah. So, we should get input from them to connect them with Manuel as well.
If I might say something, one thing that Jeff mentioned during the tour was maintaining a flexibility as we're developing these spaces, because as time goes on, some of the programs become outdated and we need to look at further other programs as well. So I think one of the things we must stress in the CTE program is some type of flexibility as we design the spaces.
Absolutely. The rolling desks, the electric outlets from the ceiling, all that.
yeah, agreed.
All right.
Will
Anything
you
else?
just get us some dates, Matt?
We'll do that.
Okay.
Can we maybe focus on the schools we want to see? We want to get to Saugus and the 2 schools up
Intro.
Winthrop, right? Those 2.
Yeah.
And another one where you suggesting, did you say Pell?
Yeah, if you want to go look at Pell, it's an elementary school, but it is cost effective.
I think that's a no-brainer. I think we should look at that. And then Westport, you said? So I think those four maybe stay with those.
And one more you had.
The Weymouth Mass Middle School.
So yeah, I guess we can squeeze those in somehow in all of our busy schedules.
Mhm.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
You're welcome.
All right, next agenda item is update on options for housing grades 4 and 5 until PK through 5 elementary school is built.
I can jump in on that. Our team has been talking about these options, exploring some ideas. Before we bring recommendations to you, though, however, we'd like to meet with a smaller group who we can get some feedback about how realistic or what issues are behind it that we need to know. So that will be coming, and you know, we're really just getting started up right now, but we'll get back to you after we've been able to get more input.
And I guess the one thing I'll add too on that topic, and it kind of is a nice bridge from the end of the discussion we just had, is coming up fairly shortly in terms of what town council was asking for, but in terms of where we're all positioning now is, I know Manuel wishes he could be here tonight, and he couldn't, unfortunately, but going forward, we will have him appear at a meeting very shortly to talk about with HMFH and the team, the program, right? Because I think these conversations have happened and are happening with faculty and staff, but we don't have that much time. So we want to get it in front of you and town council and others as well in fairly short order. So I think that we'll try and put a bow on that as quickly as we can to answer both of those questions.
How many students do we have in grades 4 and 5?
About 150 each grade,
Each grade? 22 a class, something like that.
25 up to
25.
25.
Only one question. So, Matt, you shared with us a high-level schedule, several weeks ago, which I know was based on an April referendum. Do we have an updated schedule that we're marching to now that we could track over the next couple of months?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So why don't we get that to you as we put something together?
That work plan.
Yeah, a work plan over the next few months.
Okay, great.
Right. Any other thoughts on grades 4 and 5? Not really. Anything else? Okay. All right, next item is discussion on referendum vote in May, 11 weeks. Ed Brady, I think it's less than that now. Get your little wheel out. You didn't give it to me last time. So, just in general, we don't have a lot of time. I think, we have to plan and support this as much as we can. So, I know there's been some emails going around which are good. So I don't know if anybody is prepared to talk about this now, but we need to. So, anybody want to start? Any ideas?
Well, our town communication officer has put together a communication plan, and I think we need to focus. He put out a number of action steps, and I think what we need to do as a group is narrow it down to, what is actually doable. When I talked to Sean, he says you really have 34 days, right? 35 days for the opening of voting.
36 today, 36
Six.
working days,
Yeah.
56 calendar days.
When I dropped the phone,
Yeah.
So we have to be very targeted, very focused, very thoughtful about what we really can do. I mean, part of it is forming a pack if we can do that, but I don't know if, do you want to have Matt weigh in on some of the things he talked about?
Yeah, Matt, can you
What's
share?
doable, what's not doable?
Hey, everybody. Matt Shealy, I handle public affairs for the town and the school. I was asked to put together a communications plan, forwarded one late last week. It had 10 action items. So that might be a little over ambitious at this point. I think most of it can be accomplished in short order. I was given marching orders today to make sure that we have a flyer, a mailer that we can mail out to every resident. I'm going to try to prepare that by the end of the week, and also a separate flyer that we can hand to people. I think that one of the keys that we have to do is make sure that everything is easy to understand. Often what happens during these discussions is you get lost in numbers and high level information when the answers are really simple. I've been pushing the idea that this project is going to cost about $2 a day for the average Middletown homeowner. That's something that everybody can easily understand. We used that message and during the regionalization discussion, rolled it out late about $1 a day. And Sean joked with me that couldn't wait to put that out. And it was true. And I think that resonates. So in addition to the flyers, we've been working on organizing at least 2 informational meetings where people will have an opportunity to learn more about the projects. We'll have experts on hand, everybody who's available here as much as possible to answer questions and offer feedback. Other ideas as part of the 10-point plan, I mentioned about doing some videos. I can do those myself. I just need access to players like Billy, staff, students, some of the experts here. Simple 1 minute quick hitters that people watch and get a general idea about how this affects staff and students, the educational opportunities that we'll be offering here. Also providing information about the existing buildings. We really haven't talked too much about how poor they are in some instances. So there are a lot of choice opportunities here to spread this message quickly. I use social media every day with what I do, and it's amazing when I post something, we have ways to track how quickly things are viewed and what things resonate. Sorry, I'm just going to refer to my notes real quickly here. Obviously, during the last regionalization discussion, the outreach done by folks like Tom and Paul Rodricks was instrumental. Sitting in on one of those sessions at the senior center, you could see how what they were saying was resonating with residents. I've already talked with Paul, and assuming Tom will be available as well to do similar things, to reach out to as many groups as possible is important. Again, we don't have a lot of time, but you make an hour presentation and you can really sway votes. Part of the discussion I had today with Sean, he mentioned that we need to meet with the PTG groups, not just at the high school and the middle school, but the elementary schools as well. My son, Sammy's in kindergarten at Forest Avenue right now. If these pass, he'll be going to these schools. Unfortunately, my daughter's in 7th grade, and who knows, maybe she might be going to the
inaugural class.
And
I don't know.
I've said that to her, definitely. So who knows? Also, we've had good luck with question and answer sheets. Last year, we rolled out something that could have been potentially very controversial, the tiered residential tax program, where we divided the taxes in Middletown between residents and non-residents. I think one of the reasons that it was so successful was because we had a question and answer sheet that answered basically every question that anybody could have. That document could be evolving. I can put that together quickly, and it's just time. Created a dedicated web page, and also using Middletown Today, the monthly newsletter. That's an important aspect of this. Some people don't hear about anything until they get it in Middletown Today, which amazes me, but based on the amount of information that we push out on a daily basis. But so it goes, trying to reach as many people as possible. So any questions? Sorry, just stream of consciousness there for a
Can
little
you
bit.
share that communication plan? I don't know if I was copied on
Sure.
it.
Yeah, you were copied, but
I'll send it along to everybody at the table
Thank you.
tomorrow.
But as I said, I think we have to focus on, 3, 4 that we can really do well and get it out and be consistent with it. If we have time to do the others, I think that's great. But focusing, being very thoughtful and deliberate. I know Sean has reached out to our town council president and our school committee chair to get some dates to go out and do 2 big community meetings. I think those meetings with PTGs are essential. Music boosters, sports boosters. We want to also have the big community meetings with our elected officials. We do want to have them taped so people can look at them. The Q&As are essential. I think that, if we can just start, putting the Q&As somewhere and having them answered. We have a button now on our page, May 2nd school bond information. It links right to the building committee, and Don, I think you're tasked to really update that. So we can put pictures in there, we can put, any of the information. So I just looked, that's up on our website already. So that's the landing button. It's one click. It brings you to the building committee.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. You have 10 things. How many can you do and what can we help with? Because I talked to David and East today, and we're going to use the building committee website. If you want that to be the repository for all this, let me know and I can work with you on that.
I think if the thing that's the most consuming for me personally would be the videos. I have a vision in my head about how to do them. Historically, we've done chats. Somebody will sit and answer questions, and frankly, those don't really resonate as much as I'd like them to. I have an idea in my head. As long as the people are provided to me, I can bang those out. In terms of the flyer and all the other things I've talked about, I forgot to mention that we're looking to get this meeting broadcast live for transparency's sake. I've heard from media and residents about how a lot is happening at these meetings. I can't get to the meeting. I want to sit at home. That's happening actually for the next meeting.
Yeah, we're going to do it here, and we have the capability. It will be a Zoom webinar. So
Right now, aren't we? We're just recording it.
we're just recording it now. It's not live. To do it live, we need to do a Zoom webinar,
Gotcha.
and we will do that. So it will be live. It will be recorded, and we can put those up. I think some of the other questions that I've heard is how have we spent our money, and getting that documentation out. That has been a request. So this is what we've done with the money, that $10 million that we had, a request of what we spend from our operating budget for the middle and high school, repairs, maintenance, supplies, getting that information up and out is critical as well.
There's also the need to involve the community in general through a survey. That might be something that is a little time consuming as well, but there's nothing worse with a project than pitching something to somebody and not having them not feel like they have an opportunity to comment on it. And obviously we're moving quickly here, but it's been outlined why this is happening.
And that's something you can continue on after the vote is successful, and we're still gonna want a lot of input from the community.
And we have a lot of expertise, here around this table, but also on the screen. Manuel could possibly do a survey. Let's not all take this on ourselves. Let's
what Matt and I
parcel
talked
this
about
out.
is the survey should directionally go to should originate with Manuel, so it can be incorporated into the educational plan.
That was an awesome experience last week, to be honest with you. The excitement that was in that group of a dozen people and what was happening, what he was talking about. To me, I see him, he's a rock star. He is the expert in this area in the state, and you can see why. He doesn't come across as preachy or arrogant or anything like that at all. He's there to listen. He has his clipboard and he's writing down everything. And what a resource. I mean, whoever decided to bring him in, or however he got here, he's outstanding at what he does. Hopefully the product he delivers is this.
And
good
actually,
as
we
up
have a
front.
follow-up meeting. I think it's tomorrow, right? Team, yep, tomorrow. I see Doug shaking his head. Interestingly enough, when we did those tours, kids were interested in who was
Sure.
walking around, and one young woman came up to me and said, "What's going on? What's going on?" And it was like, oh, here's a golden opportunity. Let's engage these kids. And she was pretty excited about it.
I had the same experience as well, and that's why pushing this out on social media, students are more likely to do that than go to the town's website or the newspaper or something there. And that's the survey too, to get perspectives from the students and the staff. Obviously, they're the ones that are experiencing this every day. We could say all we want to, but they're in the buildings. And
I know you take a look at these buildings that are that the architects have designed, and I feel sorry for our students. They're not experiencing that depth and breadth of a true educational experience. We're back in the 60s,
hearing
or the
Jeff
70s.
Jeff was standing at a integral intersection in the high school where a couple hallways come together, and he was talking about how he wanted a standing desk in one spot so he could monitor what's going on in these different hallways. He's visible, but he's also getting work done, emailing, and Manuel heard about it, and he was like, "You're going to be blown away by what we can do. We're gonna blow things away." I obviously concerned,
That thing on the wall,
right?
which was attached and it just flipped
Right.
up a piece of wood where they could put a computer to watch, to be there. And Manuel was like, no.
And to get that excitement
Mhm.
going in the community, it's cool to hear about the branding of Middletown. That's obviously part of what I'm trying to do, and I try to describe my job. It's to make Middletown look good, but to get that excitement, there's so much positive that happens in this community. But obviously, as you're saying, we have to make sure we hold the line on expenses as well. That's why, all this
Engaging the historical society. When the architects talked about, the branding of our community, we have such a rich history here, and to have that displayed in our schools would be incredible.
I have a mascot that I've created, but haven't gotten the approval on it yet. So I have to talk to Sean about that at some point. He doesn't like it.
As
Sounds
far as
scary.
the communication
this is-
plan goes, Matt, like, I mean, I think this is my opinion. I think that should be led by the community members of our building committee. I think it's very important to do that. We are very unique in other building committees in that aspect. Some of the negative feedback we got from the regionalization, it was sometimes, an elected official or somebody, sometimes we appreciate their support. We want their support. But sometimes people, I think, want to hear from the community members as well.
Sure.
So,
I'm here to help
yeah.
you. Doing what I do, I try to be as nimble as possible and move quickly, because as we know, something that's news one day is
right.
in the past 2 days later.
At the same time, we're gonna be, your budget meetings are all happening now too, right? Between the town
Yes.
and school. So, my opinion again too, and everybody else can comment how they want. I think we need to try to keep those as separate as possible. And this is a initiative that we need to do for our kids. But that's going to be happening at the same time. So very difficult budget discussions as well.
So given my marching orders and where I've heard where everything has to go, I'm not just pushing things out independently or anything like that. I never do with anything that happens in the community. It's all vetted by at least one person, if not more. And it's amazing the mistakes that I'll make that people will catch and avoid egg on my face. So.
Go ahead, Bill.
So can we ask the team? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Rosemary.
No, I just,
question.
the team on the Zoom, what supports could you provide us in terms of a communication?
So I'll start and let other people jump in, but I've talked to HMSH about coming up with some inspirational sort of imagery reasonably quickly to kind of have something that communicates what this is all about. I talked to Sean about support we may be able to offer in terms of layout design, or just as Matt said, fact checking, looking at data, making sure that those pieces that we're trying to put together as the initial lead out go out quickly. So I think we're in good space there. I'm happy to hear from others and have HMFH and others talk, but the working group is certainly moving on these things. We're just doing it quietly until we're ready to unveil any of it, is what I would say.
I think one of the, can I just add one item? We're all talking this $190 million bond. One of the things that we really need to get out to the public is that it's 190, we're getting our reimbursables back from the state. That leaves our amount of dollars we have to spend that. But over the next 6, 7, 8 years in our schools, I'm just talking the middle and the high school, you have to put dollars in. There's dollars that have to come. And people have to realize that. You're not going to get that for free. And it's a sizable amount of money. And really you have to look at, some forensic accountant has to turn around and say, this is what it's going to cost you. So really your cost is this. And not trying to scare people, but tell them the truth. This is what's going to happen. You're going to have to put money in. And the money's going to be sizable.
Frequently what I cite is the $190 million report done in November 21. That's the number that fixes that are required, at least when we haven't even opened up a wall or a space or anything like that.
But those dollars weren't due immediately. They would be over a period of time. So you look at it, there's got to be a way to do that, to show that, by the time you're all done, there still is an outlay. By the time you're all done, this community is going to have to outlay dollars.
The risk of what,
But
if we
there's,
don't do something, what is
Right.
the cost going to
but
be?
without scaring people, you don't want to put that scare
Exactly.
tactic out, because that's the wrong way to go about
Mhm.
it. But just say, hey, listen, if we don't do this, we're going to have to put this amount of dollars into the school, but be able to justify those dollars. So the community knows that, because somebody's going to ask the question and we just can't say, well, it's going to be that. I don't
Somebody?
know.
Go ahead,
So
Bill.
look, this is where I wanted to go, and I got to tell you, I don't want to be the downer here, but we're preaching to the choir in this group right now. What we did previously, we were 75%. So 3 out of every 4 people that went into the voting booth voted in favor of this. My prediction would be that, and I think I was pretty accurate the first time where we landed. I thought it was going to be around that number. I'm suggesting that we're going to be somewhere between 70% and 50%, and we need 50%. So the one thing that we haven't discussed, that we've only put out there, Matt, and respectfully, the $2 a day concept, slogan, tagline, whatever you want to call it, is in my eyes just not enough.
No.
It needs more, and Vince was going where I wanted to go. And I've asked Sean, and I know we can't do these numbers now, but as a taxpayer, that we got a pretty good message from the council, I think, when we presented, and they certainly endorsed this. And again, I think this project stands on its merits for all of the good that it's going to do for this community. But we need to convince the council, and for better or for worse, there's an awful lot of residents in this town that listen to the council. And if I don't necessarily sense that it's going to be unanimous, but let's say it is, regardless, the question is still going to be, what is the impact to my taxes day one? And the $190 million broken up into 2 disbursements of $95 million, that impact of $1.60, say, for the average resident on the tax rate does not happen overnight. It does not happen day one. So I'm not going to wake up on my first tax bill that I get next year, and I'm going to see $1.60 added to the tax rate overnight. It's going to happen over time. That kind of a graphic, I think, needs to be said, because that to me is what resonates with people, the taxpayers, the people who are listening to the council, the people who are they will not come in public and say, they'll agree with us. We're preaching to the choir here. Everything we've talked about tonight is so solid for this town. but we need to talk and we can't just give them $2 a day. Frankly, that sounds, you can do the math on that pretty quickly. That adds up to a lot of money for some people,
It definitely does.
so I think we need to do more than just $2 a day.
I totally agree. That's the beginning base point. That's something that we know right now. That's in Manuel, providing the information because it came up a lot during regionalization. There was a segment who said, what are the educational benefits of that? We will have that information out. We are gathering it now.
Yeah.
I was researching it myself today, and to argue that a new building like this wouldn't positively impact students in so many different ways would be silly. I think we all saw it tonight with the slideshow. But you're completely right. I totally agree with you. We're not gonna just be saying $2 a day and walk away. We're gonna provide as much information as we can, like we've always tried to. But given the tight timeline, there is only so much we can do. But you're spot on.
The sense I got from the council was that, they were afraid that the $1.60 became an issue, and for the average Joe taxpayer on the tax rate, I think that kind of a graphic like that, how is this impacting on a yearly basis, my taxes?
Tom?
Good.
Yep. So, first of all, I don't know who wouldn't listen to the council. But
Indeed.
second of all, Matt, what I would want, and I think is important early on, is the elevator speech. Because like you say, we do go around to different groups and try to promote it, but everybody's talking to people all over the place. We need to be on the same page, and we have to decide that we just talked about all sorts of aspects, which are all important, but simple, like you said in the very beginning. What is the 1 minute worth that everybody needs to get out first? And then if the conversation continues, great. But that's what I want.
Yeah, and I would like to add, and it's all targeted for the May ballot. There's other stuff we can do later. We're gonna have initial conceptual things of what we can do. But in order to get support for this, we need to comprehend PK through 12. So we've talked a lot about middle and high. We really need to have a message for what is our long-term plan for PK all the way through 12. And we can't do everything now, but we need to at least let people know what we're going to do for the elementary schools with the 20 million. Right. And because we know, looking at the impact on the town, there's only so much we can do in the next 25 or 30 years. So somehow we need to comprehend the entire district between now and May. So we need I know this isn't you, this is us. This is with our.
Well, and I think Don brings up a great point that we start talking, we all want to start working on the details, this is about that vote.
Correct.
And it's about convincing people that this is the best thing for our town. And, I think we have to stay focused on a message like that. And be ready for the questions. There's going to be plenty of questions like there was the first time around. And we just have to be ready for them.
Certainly. Obviously, the regionalization issue is off the table, and that takes that confusion about how this whole thing works.
Yeah.
But I think that the message tonight about visiting the schools, I'd love to go along as well to show people what these buildings could look like. And all doesn't.
And I want to clarify, I don't mean that, we don't want the town council. We want the town council. It does say something 6-0, and one person was absent. I think it would have been 7-0 on that vote that supported this. And that's a huge thing, because 2 years ago, we weren't quite there. And, I think though, while they're out talking, someone from the community members here should be out there with them as well. And that's what we have to drive this message is we're everyday people that are here working, and it's important. And seniors too, they're going to be the ones that are going to vote.
Like I said earlier, I definitely saw it during the presentation at the senior center.
Right.
They're probably everybody in that room was voting. And the group that made the presentation was 100%, and you could see nodding heads, and it was registering. Look at the approval rate that we had in a community that historically doesn't approve these things, and is very frugal, with its bonding, so.
Yeah.
But that was a different election. That was a midterm. A lot of people show up for midterms. This here's an election that typically, if I wasn't on this committee, I wouldn't be voting. I wouldn't even go out and vote. I was, you know, it doesn't bother me and I would just stay away from it. I think, my own opinion, I think Rosemary, if the high school and the middle school, get it to the teachers, get that to the students. We need their parents to vote. That's how we pass this vote.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that they're gonna be, you know, they'll be in favor of it. I don't see how, how somebody going to those schools would turn around and say, we shouldn't do this, you know, it's, so that's where we, you know, you need those parents to get out to push this vote.
And we need those in the elementary as well,
Mhm.
you know, keeping in mind, like, they were gonna show us some of those more affordable elementary schools. I think that's really important to see
Right.
for the consolidated elementary and not to forget that and to keep that in here too. I don't know how much detail we're
And-
gonna be able to go into with that, but something.
I would
That's
recommend
part
the
of
committee.
Manuel's plan is engaging, our parents.
Yeah, I would recommend doing some of these community events at the schools too. We talked about that the last time. I know it's harder logistically, right, sometimes, but you know, to have people, welcome people into that school, a lot of people just drive by it. They don't have a clue. You know,
But, Billy, we can work with our principals, what events are coming up between now and the 34 to 5 days. And at every event, have that elevator speech or have that flyer or have people there to give facts. We have to be very careful too, because those of us that work for the school department and we can't say vote for. We have to provide facts.
little tricky.
Yeah.
Or to
But-
have, you know, the big poster boards, even for the kids that walk by in the high school and the middle school, poster boards of the stuff that's in the flyers or the images. See 'em.
we're allowed to
Charlie?
distribute things in like your emails and stuff though, right? It doesn't say vote for it, but it says.
No, anything that's informational can be distributed.
Happy to do
And,
that.
we need to be very careful about that.
Charlie, you mentioned, did you mention or did Matt mention the formation of a PAC? Is that something we can't talk about tonight? Yeah.
It shouldn't be in this forum. That should be outside of this group.
Yeah.
Not sponsored by this group by any stretch, right?
Right.
But it can be people from this group participating in that PAC.
In your capacity off the committee, yes.
Yeah. I just care, you brought it up, Sean, right? You brought it up, Matt.
Well, it's on the agenda, yeah.
On the agenda, I just want to make.
But I
Wanna be
mean,
clear, I
that
mean,
it's on the
that's-
agenda, our statement or, our town administrator's statement is if you're gonna do that, you do that on your own time. This is a
Correct.
public meeting. Typically PACs are formed for, projects like this, but, do it, has to be outside of this meeting.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yep.
Clarification.
I sent Ed and Charlie all the legalese about forming a PAC.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. We're
Thanks,
lucky to have you,
everybody.
so thank you for that.
Thank you for the work, Matt. And
Definitely.
you've sent it to me, so I'll send it around. I'll have Kiki send it to everybody, okay?
The
the
point
committee.
about the flyer is not included as part of that.
Okay, you want to update it?
I
and then-
will. I'll
okay.
update it tomorrow and
Okay.
send it over.
Good. And then, Derek, you're gonna help us too, right?
No,
Correct. Yep. Yeah,
Yep,
I'm
there's-
on it. We've got this.
All right.
Go team.
All right, next agenda item, update on building committee membership. I think we can handle this pretty quick. So we have, Don, you have that list right back.
Oh, yeah,
there.
we went over this at the last meeting, so obviously there's 8
Yeah, go ahead.
requirements from the state. Superintendent, we have superintendent coverage, at least one member of the school committee. We currently have 2, Tammy and Doug, with Leanna and Bill O'Connell as alternates. Doug and Leanna are no longer members, so we asked the school committee to reappoint, I guess, members and alternates or whatever. So that's the first one.
And our chair can do that tomorrow because she appoints people.
Okay,
And how many, ideally, as many or
you just
what
need
are we looking for?
one
Well,
replacement.
you only need one by law.
Okay.
You have 2 now, so there's no reason not to keep 2. It's up
A
to the
second
school
and an
committee.
alternate?
It's the school committee's purview to determine that. You appointed us,
Mhm.
right?
Okay,
So we just need that to be updated. Local official billing maintenance, we have Poe, representative of the office or body authorized by law to construct the buildings. We have town council member Welch, and I assume Chris is your alternate still?
Yes.
Okay. School principals, we have Jeff and Bill, and I know Superintendent, you said occasionally you may have other alternates.
Jeff and Bill are one body, they're not
One
two.
with the, yeah, one, Jeff is the primary, Bill is the alternate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Yeah,
with clarification.
Yeah, when you're.
We only have one member,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then educational mission is Michelle Fonseca.
Mhm.
There was a question of, do you want to, can you have a backup or an alternate? And that's something I don't know, but if it's something you could, that would be great. And then, local budget, official, a member of finance committee, we have town administrator and finance director as an alternate.
Is that officially the case?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then community members, at least one, we have 4, and then 2 alternates.
So we have 12 total members,
So
correct?
12 voting members.
12
correct.
voting members with alternates.
Correct. That is correct.
I mean, is Michelle just too busy? I mean, I thought we should talk about it because, you know, I know she's been to one meeting, I think, but you know, what is that someone that we should get somebody else in that position or?
Well, I'll talk.
Okay. That is one that's a ride requirement. I know that
Mhm.
language comes from that. What was the other one too?
I think the individual that Matt LaRue discussed from one of the schools, having someone that has a security background, if we could recruit someone to fill that spot would be helpful in this process.
Wait, the police department?
I think, yeah, maybe Rosemary could talk to Chief Basari about that.
Yep, I will.
Sorry, it sounds so old school.
It is old school.
Back.
OG.
Back.
OG Basari.
All right, is that it on building committee membership? Open discussion.
Thank you very much for having me here. Terry Flynn, 34 Warren Avenue. I just wanted to come up after listening to the conversation to also ask this committee and our media guru behind me, if it's going to be made clear to the public also that our entire debt capacity based on the numbers from the January 25th Hilltop Securities Report will be invested in one segment of the town, the school buildings. You know, I just think it's important that the voters understand when they vote that yes, there's all kinds of building elements to the project. Got it. But there's other financial things that they should be very clear on. I don't care how they vote, but I think it's very important that they have the information, the big picture in order to make that decision. Because $2 a day is a lot of money. And it's not so much what the cost is it a good use of the dollars that we have, the limited dollars. This entire debt capacity invested in school buildings when there are other issues or emergencies in our town is very, people should know that because it's scary. I don't think anyone would do it in their household, to be quite honest with you. Not if they were running, you know, a solid, secure budget.
I don't know that I agree with that.
I would.
Because I think every young person buys a house and probably wonders how they're going to afford the mortgage. I don't think it's any different. I think
Yeah, but the bank is covering, I'd like to finish. I don't want to go back and forth, but
That's fine.
we
I
could
just-
argue because the bank is the filter. They're not going to loan to you if you are not at a certain percentage of your income to make those payments. So of course you wonder how you're going to do it, but the bank isn't going to get involved if they don't think that you can. So if you don't mind, I just don't want to go back and forth. I just want to make some comments for consideration. That's all they are. Another issue that's very huge is that the 190, which is all of our debt capacity, is not going to cover all the needs of school buildings in the short term. It's my understanding in 5 or 10 years, you're going to come back to the taxpayer and need for more schools. The timing is precarious. Interest rates are up, labor costs are up, material costs are up. Would I do a major construction project on my home right now? I would think long and hard about that and look at all my options. The design isn't firm, and I know that they're working on it. I get it, but the voter needs to know to what extent is firm. What's just a dream or a vision, and what's actually known. That long-term plan, thank you for whoever brought that up. It's very important that the voter and this committee and this town has that long-term plan, because what you're asking is, okay, 2016, you spent $10 million plus interest. And because the plan then was to repair what we have, and there wasn't a long-term plan, some of that money is just going to be thrown away, wasted. It is not good use of resources, not in my world anyway. And some would say that the buildings have been improved. Brand new gym floor at Gaudet, that's a building that's supposed to be torn down. I just think that there's a holistic picture here that I'm not hearing in the conversation. And that I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know we're not necessarily going to go back and forth, but to make it clear, the bonding capacity puts us at a potential place, not that we can't borrow more, but we may have impact on the rates and the rated, whether we're A+ ratings and stuff like that. I think it is important. I'm not arguing about that. But we need to just be clear of what the impact is to the town. Secondly, we are going to talk about the future of the elementary schools. We need to talk about the future of the elementary schools between now and May. So people have a right to know what we can and can't do in the long term, because this is a 50-year plus plan for these schools that we are building. We need to comprehend what else does that look like for the other schools, which we've talked about already. And then
part of the phase 2 submission arrived.
it has to be part of the phase 2 submission anyway. Exactly. We need to
So-
come, so that, and I think.
Our regulator requires it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then we are going to talk about the 10 million and where that did go, because there's a difference between, keeping the schools running and investing in the schools. So I just think they were good questions. They're very pertinent points. We need to.
I have a detailed 1-page.
Oh, you do?
summary.
Excellent. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because we need to answer those questions. The previous speaker is absolutely right. But we need to be clear and, direct on what, the direct answers as Councilmember Welch said. We have this, we're all having the same message and we're all on the same page, and it's all based on facts. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. Ron Hiru, 51 Bay Ridge Drive. To me, as a taxpayer, senior, what are the consequences if we don't do this? I would like to know that, and in the PR statements, whatever. And the other thing, just as a reminder, I work at the polls. We start voting April 12th, not May 11th. There's early voting, so got to get that message out to the people before we start voting.
That's the 39 days or 35 days. Thank you. Before that happens. Thanks.
Teresa?
Thank you. Teresa Spangler, 132 Peckham Lane, and Chair of the School Committee. I just want to comment that again, and I know I mentioned this last time, but I want to reiterate it, that schools are an economic driver for the success of any community. People move here, people will build more houses. And if their schools are high rating, then people will move back into our community. They are now. We're seeing an influx. But I also want to mention about, we've already invested into the new police station, a new fire department, new DPW building. We are repairing roads to make our community safe for driving for our families, for our pedestrians, for our bikes, things of that nature. We have a new library that we're talking about. We've made beach improvements. We have patched our schools. We have not invested into our schools. Yes, the $10 million bond was an important factor. And at the time, I've been part of that for all these years. Those were repairs. Those were not long-term fixes. Excuse me. And we knew that. So this is a critical feature that we have to be able to get this bond presented correctly to our citizens, expressing the importance of long-term investment into the education of our future, and children are our future. As you had mentioned, pre-K to 12, it's critical. And we're looking at the success of not only with our pre-K to 12, but this is preparing our students for the future of career and college readiness skills. So if we don't have our schools into that model, and the technology and the environment and the curriculum, the academic aspect, we're not going to prepare our students to be our future leaders. And I think that's really important. And I also wanted to mention we keep talking about the 190 million, but we always need to make sure that we remind everybody that there is a reimbursement there. We're not paying 190 million back. And that's really important that we talk about that reimbursement with the possibilities of higher reimbursement as the time goes on, depending on what we can work with RIDE and things of that nature. So I really think that's important versus the $2 a day. I think we need to make sure we emphasize the reimbursement and the advantages of doing something like this now. And as Mr. Haru said, and other people have said, the fact of what is it going to cost us if we don't do anything? If we only patch the buildings, how long are they really going to last? And what is that dollar amount going to look like? I think it will be a never-ending pot of money versus a big investment to repair. Because when you build the new buildings, we'll have a lot of efficiencies and savings versus maintaining the old ones. So, thank you.
I just wanted the previous speaker, Teresa's point about the 52.5%. I think it's important if we can have any information from our local representatives of the progress to the 65% between now and as soon as we can. And I know it's early, but if there's, at least if it's being, like if there's movement, I know it's early, but whatever we could share would be important, because that's a large increase in reimbursement that'll definitely reduce the impact to the taxpayer.
Yep.
And maybe that's a Sean update on a future meeting.
Well, one other thing too that I've just been thinking as well, like, we're going to newer and fewer here, right? So we're gonna have some surplus property here too. That's gonna be turned over to things like affordable housing and things like that as well. So we don't really talk about that often, but end of the day, we could have a whole facility, where Aquidneck is, that returns to playing fields or something like that as well. So good points. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone. Zoom.
What's that?
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Something.